All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're doing another video live in my office. Well, I guess not live. You guys are going to watch it on YouTube, so that's not live. But I'm shooting it live off the cuff. I just have a couple of points that we'll go over. But as you can see, we're going to be talking about working with a new build. So the awesome thing here with working with a new build, there's so many things that are so awesome. And I'm going to cover those in the next slide. So I'm excited to chat this over with you, and hopefully this brings a little light into working with a new build, the beauty of it, some of the nuances with it, and hopefully this will just give you a good insight to take your clients down a path that might work for them. So, all right, these are the things to cover. So we're just going to go over these top to bottom. So first, right off the bat, they do use a different contract in most cases. If they're a reputable builder that is big, they're definitely going to use a purchase contract that is something that fits the builder and the builder's needs. So some of the time, like if you take them to D.R. Horton or Edge, they have a different style of contract, which is very built for the builder. So at no point should you really think that your clients have a lot of protection through that contract. So you need to be very careful about what you're getting your clients into. But at the same time, there are a lot of provisions in there that do protect your buyer, but the deadlines are very, very firm most of the time. And so we'll get to the deadlines and timelines here in a second. So just main point here is most of the time you will not use the regular real estate purchase contract that you're used to. You'll just be using whatever they have on site. Another thing about the contract really quick though before we move on is that when you go into a new build, just be aware that if you're not with your clients the very first time that they go into that new build, model home or whatever, the builders don't like having a realtor show up on the second or third time. So if you're working with your clients and they're like, hey, we're thinking about going to a new build model home, just be aware and let them know, like, it's great that they want to see a new model home, but just remember that when they walk in there, like on a Saturday, to let the on-site agent know that they're represented already. That'll make sure that the agent on site knows that they have representation and that they won't try to steal your client. So that we're always trying to protect our client. But the other side is clients that walk in there don't understand that the builder's agent works for the builder. At no point will they sign anything that says the agent's going to represent them at all. They just help them through the contract process. So just make your clients aware. Just have that conversation with them. And if they come back at you like, hey, they weren't saying they were going to try to steal us. We just want to try to get a different cost. Well, so be it. But they run the risk of not having anybody on their side and looking out for their best interests, which is what we do. Okay, let's move on to timelines. So some of the things that I like to do when I walk into a new build is I ask them what their timeline is for the build right off the bat so that I can kind of set the expectations for my clients. So if I'm working with clients and they're like, yeah, we got to be into a house in 45 days, you almost never find a new build that fits that, especially right now because they've sold out of most everything and they're all waiting for 10 to 12 month build jobs. Occasionally you may get one that pops up that somebody canceled on and then is something that you can kind of squeeze into. Excuse me. That's more rare than just going in, getting in line, getting under contract and waiting 10 months for the build to be finished. So timeline, I always love to ask that question, like right out of the gate, what does your build timeline look like? Where are we at with lot picking? When do we have design studio time? Things like that. So you really want to make sure that you hammer down those timelines so you can understand them because every builder's different. And number two, so you can set those expectations with your clients. All right, and then the one that I love to ask right after timelines, and sometimes this goes in reverse order, is all about deposits. So and you guys have seen this, those of you that have worked with clients that are FHA or VA, or they have the low money down conventional loans, they might not have the cash on hand to do a construction deposit in the first place. So that's why I always ask about deposits right up front. Let's set that expectation, and find out what money is needed to be involved in the first case to get that contract. Case in point, D.R. Horton, the units that we just got into, they were a $1,000 earnest money deposit, and that was it. That's what got you the contract, and that's what got the ball rolling. No construction deposit whatsoever. So very, very inexpensive earnest money and deposit to get things going. Now, there are a lot of builders out there that require 5% or some type of construction deposit, and that can really put the hamper on your client because maybe they don't have those funds sitting around just doing nothing. So you really need to ask, what's the earnest money? What is the construction deposit? Do they have an upgrade deposit? There are so many things to ask, and I try to get those out in the open early so that they don't get broadsided by anything. One of the things that I like about Edge is that they have a very cool way to do upgrade deposits. It's in kind of a graduated system so that if you're under 10,000, and don't quote me on this because the numbers have probably changed, but if you were under 10,000 in upgrades, it was no extra money. If you went into the next 10,000, then it was nothing for the first 10,000, and then 20%, I believe, of the next 10,000. And I think it was so on and so forth after that. Same kind of $10,000 principle. So, which is nice because a lot of people want to do minor upgrades, but maybe they don't have that cash on hand to do those. But if they stayed under 10,000, they could get all of them covered inside their loan, and they wouldn't have any out-of-pocket costs. So it makes it kind of nice, makes it fun for them to get what they want, yet also not burning all their cash that's maybe they don't have. I'll get that later. Okay, so then next we're going to talk about reputable builders. I really want to caution everybody to make sure that when your clients select a builder and you go out there and start hunting with them, make sure that the builder is reputable. Maybe they have some reviews online, maybe ask around how they've done, how their jobs have been, and really just kind of poke around, because there are builders popping up every day that think that they're the bee's knees, and we just haven't seen some of the new builders be very, I wouldn't say not honest, but they're not being forthcoming with their skill, their timeline, their build job, cost evaluations. Some of them haven't been that accurate. So what I want to make sure that you guys understand here is if you go to one of the large builders, they have more reputation to deliver that product. If you get somebody that's just barely starting, you never know. You might get the guy that's very meticulous, and you might get the guy that's very careless. And so I just want to make sure that you're aware and that you're being cautious with your clients. All right, things to do if it hits the fan. So this is kind of an interesting topic. The contracts that you use when you go into a new build, like I said, they're going to be a different contract most of the time that protects the builder almost 99% of the time. The things that we can do when it hits the fan is really start poking and prodding and asking those questions to the on-site agent, to their supervisor, and we can actually run it up the chain and try to get our answers or get our questions answered. Because sometimes it might be a miscommunication with the on-site agent. If we get their supervisor involved, then usually it gets cleared up. One of the things that we run into all the time is the on-site foreman or job production supervisor or the building contractor or whoever you want to call it out there on site. Sometimes when they're giving us information through our client about maybe a fault that was found in the home during an inspection or something, sometimes those answers aren't what we needed to hear and aren't what the truth was. And so sometimes we come back and we really push it onto the on-site agent and their staff to bear down on the on-site foreman or building contractor to make sure that something gets done correctly. My illustration here is one of the last new builds that we did. The floor had a bubble in it where the subfloor was actually, or the floor joists were actually anchored a little higher than normal. And so there was this bubble, not huge. My hand going like this makes it look huge. It was just a little rise in the floor, but it was noticeable. And then it wasn't dealt with pretty early on when we had said, like, hey, here's our issues here, here, and here. They just didn't do anything about it. 1 week before we were trying to get carpet, or a couple days before, I was really hammering them down like, hey, there is a big issue with this, and we've said it months ago. You guys haven't done anything about it. Let's work on it. So I just started asking the question and really poking and prodding and like texting all of them, calling all of them, until they were like, oh, okay, we're going to take a hard look at it. And then they actually fixed it. So our thing that we can do when the things hit the fan is to really start communicating, putting the pressure on them, making sure that they do a good job, and making sure that they do it correctly. So you'll find where you can kind of fit in and start actually deciding how abrupt you want to be or how upfront you want to be. I find that I just go into those situations and say, hey, look, I want to work together. Let's work on this. It's an issue. We need to get it taken care of. What can we do to work on it together? You know, if you go into it non-combative, you usually have a better outcome. So things to keep in mind. All right, lastly, our main goal is to protect our clients. We always have that on every deal we do, but in a new construction environment, our job isn't really the contracts. I mean, we're looking at them, but they're not something that we're super familiar with, but we also need to make sure that we're looking at them. But the thing here is we're not doing a lot of the back end scene stuff that we normally do. It's really like helping our client understand their process through this endeavor, and then also to really stand up for them when things hit the fan, which it'll happen in every new build. Some of them have more problems, others have less problems. Currently, there's somebody working on a new build right now on our team, and there's been problems throughout the entire thing, and it wasn't with a reputable builder. So that's where a lot of learning comes from. So, side note, or kind of my wrap up, is to one, get your client comfortable with the expectations of a new build. Number two, get those timelines and deposits figured out early on. Number three, really choose a builder that you feel comfortable using, or that your clients feel comfortable using. Stand in the way of the builder and your client getting freight trained, right? That's our job. But really insert yourself and get in there. And then lastly, when you get into those situations that are very heated, try to work on them together. Go into it in a very non-combative way, and you'll have great success. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. I hope this kind of filled in some gaps when you're working with new construction. Me personally, I love to take my clients to new construction because you get a great product. Your client really can get what they want. The Upgrade Design Center is super fun for your clients to go through. And then the other part that I really enjoy right now is that you're signing today's price, and if you're not going to close for 10 or 12 months, the market goes up and your clients walk into instant equity. And so that's really fun to watch and fun to see. Illustration of that one, we just had a closing right now, and they probably walked into 40 grand in equity, and it's brand new. So I just love that about new construction. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and this has been all about working with a new build, and hopefully we'll have some more for you. All right, see you guys.